Hi everyone, I'm Nancy Wallace. Welcome to my channel, Raised by Angels, Angels and More. And the reason why I named that is because I was raised by angels. And actually I have a book called Raised by Angels to kind of prove that. If anybody's interested in it, it's $29.95. Has all my experiences as I was growing up being raised by angels. All I got to do is just email me at nwallace77@hotmail.com. So today I have a couple quickies about Starship experience, and then I have a couple more that should kind of amaze you guys. But the first one for the Starship is that she said she was up in a Starship and she was walking through the corridors with star brother sister type people, and on the wall was a huge map of all the celestial planets and everything else with a direction on how this starship should go through it so that they don't miss anything. So that was one thing. The other thing that happened to her is that she has a fear of snakes, and so the star people decided that they wanted to try to change her fear of snakes. So what they did is they had her kneel down in front of a cobra, which right there would have scared me to death, and just kind of wait to see what happened. Well, the cobra did strike her, and the next thing she knew, she was waking up convulsing in her bed. Kind of scary, huh? The other story said her friend and her were outside, and all of a sudden this voice came in and said, "Better go inside." And then it said, "Right now." So what happens where they were living is that there's a lot of animals that come out at night, and I'm pretty sure that whoever's watching over them saw that there was going to be some kind of danger. The other thing is that her friend has been taken up to the Starship and impregnated and sent back down to Earth, and at a certain time they would come and take her back up there, take her baby, and send her back down. She has no idea what happens to the baby. Her parents did know it. Why they let it happen, nobody seems to know. But that is what was happening with her. So she thinks her babies are probably hybrid, which they probably are, and she does not know who they are, where they are, or anything else. So that's kind of interesting, huh? Then I have one that says, the summer of 1964. I grew up in Denver on the outskirts of Denver. I was in a friend's 1953 Chevrolet, riding shotgun. We were traveling east to see my cousin in Nebraska. It was about 4 o'clock in the morning. I asked him if he was tired, and if he was, I would drive. He said no, he was okay. So I laid back and put my knees up on the dash, and then there were no seatbelts. I closed my eyes, and that's when it happened. He must have fallen asleep because we flew off the road. We flew in the air, probably 50 or 60 yards into a valley. My face hit the steering wheel and hit the dash at least twice and hit the roof at least once. I found myself doubled up on the floor. I hurt all over. I gathered myself and got out of the car somehow. At that point in time, the sun was coming up. I looked around for my so-called friend. I looked up the very steep embankment. I saw him flagging down an 18-wheeler. They opened their door and let him in. I climbed painfully up to the highway. They were on the move. I flagged them down. They stopped about 100 yards away. They didn't back up for me and made me walk to their truck. When I got there, I had to pound on the floor, on the door, to let them let me in. They made me climb over my so-called friend, and I was doubled up in a very cramped back seat. No one said a word. They found a mom and pop motel. The two men and my so-called friend got out of and slammed the door. It took me a while, but I finally got out and went to knock on their door. I knocked on the door, and an old man opened it. They didn't tell him I was in the truck. I asked if I could come in, and he let me in. They all stood there looking at me. I said, "Where is your bathroom?" The old man and his wife pointed. I looked in the mirror, and my face, nose, lips twice their size. I looked terrible. Gee, I wonder why. I wiped the blood from my face, walked out. No one said a word, and we went to the truck. They closed the door before I got to the truck, so I had to pound on the door again to let me in. I had to climb over my so-called friend again and go to the back. They drove to a hospital and let us out and drove off. I got checked out. Nothing was broken. My mom picked me up and she drove me home. I went to my bedroom and slept. On the 4th day, I woke up. I think it was my mom's chicken soup that woke me up. That would be good. Anyway, a month later, I went out for my last year of football. I no longer had my speed or moves being a halfback. You need to have all your good stuff, all the good stuff, the God-given abilities. My future and my career in football was over. My so-called coaches were not the same toward me, the whole season anyway. Fast forward about 2 years ago, I laid down in the bed to listen to Creator or my ancestors. Suddenly, I was shown very thing about the car accident before, during, and after. Even the 4 days I was asleep. By the way, I saw nothing the 4 days I was asleep. I said to my ancestors, why did you show me that? That wreck again. You've shown that wreck before. He said you died. That is why people look at you the way they did. It took us 4 days to bring you back to life. We knew you had a lot of life in front of you to do good in the world. We could not let you die. The moral of this story is we are not in control of our future or our lives. Thank you for listening, Nancy, thank you for listening and reading one of my mini stories. Okay, the next story. The summer of 1946, January 26, I was born. One day in 1996, my mom asked me what was the earliest memory I had. Immediately, I began my story. I said it was summertime, and I was in my crib. I knew it was summer because you had on a dress. The pattern was of big, colorful flowers. Then there was a knock at the door. When you opened it, there was a lady standing there wearing a summer dress. I don't understand the English language. I thought she wanted to see me. She came in and picked me up out of my crib and handed me to her. I didn't like her voice, and I certainly didn't like her energy. I had to get away from her, my mom's friend. She only held me for a few seconds when I stiffened up like a board. She gave me a dirty look and handed me back to my mom. That's kind of funny. Mom had said, I remember that day, and I said yes. And she said, I wonder what happened. So that's when you did. That's exactly what you did. How do you remember that far back? I said, I just do. Some people who are listening to Nancy's reading my story, I say to you, chosen ones were sent here by our Creator with knowledge. Thank you for listening. Okay, here's another one. The summer of 1973, my mom got a reading from Betty Reeves. Mother told me I should see her, so I did. She used psychometry. That is where she held something of the person she was reading. She tapped into the energy. After her great reading on me, she said I had the ability to read people as she had done for many years. She said every Saturday night she taught people how to tap into their abilities. She invited me to join in the class, but I would have to take 4 one-hour private classes to catch up. After one 45-minute class, she said I was ready to join her class. The next Saturday night, I was driving to my first class. Suddenly, there were these very ugly, gory flying things in the air coming toward my windshield. There were so many of them, I couldn't see the road. I kept on driving when suddenly I began saying the Lord's Prayer out loud. I didn't know the Lord's Prayer, but that night I did. The gargles gave me a dirty look, and dissolved. I got to my very first class. I may have told the class, I don't remember, that the ugly things never came back. Betty Reeves and I became good friends. Betty was a very good and interesting person. Nancy, you remind me of her. Thank you. Thank you for listening to one of my many stories. You know, it's funny because I've asked over and over again for people to send me their stories and their experiences. And really, I'm getting some, but I'm not getting really enough. And I'd really like to have your stories and experiences rather than you keep them locked inside because you're afraid to talk about them. Again, on this channel, I'm not going to make fun of you. I'm not going to make you look strange, weird, or crazy, or believe that the story was made up. So if you would like to send me a story or an experience, how big it is or how little it is doesn't matter to me as long as it's a story or an experience. Feel free to do that. You're going to have to email it to me because once you email it to me, I then print it out so that I can read it. My email address again is nwallace77@hotmail.com. And all you got to do is leave your name, your address, and your phone number just in case I need to call you back to clarify something with the experience. Anyway, the next story goes like this. Good morning, Nancy. This is another summertime experience. I will call this Bigfoot. Cool. I was living in Montana. On a Wednesday evening, I felt I should call one of the Lakota spiritual leaders. I called and asked him why I'm calling you. He said we were going to Bear Butte or Butt Bluff for a spiritual gathering on Saturday and Sunday. Everyone who does not know about Bear Butte, the site is a very spiritual area near Sturgeon, South Dakota. We have performed spiritual ceremonies there for thousands of years, so the spiritual leader said I was welcome to come. I said I will be there. When I hung up the phone, I thought, I don't have a car to get there. The very next morning, on Thursday, a lady that I knew came up to me and said, a friend of hers said that I was looking for a car, and I said yes. Then I thought, how does anyone know that I needed a car? I looked at the car that needed a lot of work on Friday. They gave me a very sweet deal, though now I have a car to get me to Bear Butte. And then he adds, wow. Saturday morning, I drove approximately 8 hours to Bear Butte. Everyone was there. The woman had her looking station set up and were cooking in the evening meal. They welcomed me, and we all had a great time eating and talking. This one kid said to me, you know, there is a Bigfoot living in this area. He had been here for a very long time. Our ancestors have told ancient stories about him. It was getting dark fast, and they saw that I was very tired. So I was shown a large teepee. There was one Lakota guy already sleeping in the back of the teepee. I decided to sleep by the open door and thinking it was in the middle of the night when everyone was asleep. The sacred experience came to me. I felt someone breathing on me. That would probably scared me. I opened my eyes, and there he was, Bigfoot. I smiled at him and said, thank you for coming to visit me. His very, very large golden brown eyes smiled at me, the kindest eyes I've ever seen. His head and shoulders were huge. Both of us were not fearful of each other. We looked at each other for a while without saying a word, verbally or mentally. I didn't know how long it was. It seemed short. I finally said to him, I am very tired and I'm going to go back to sleep. When I woke up that morning, I lay there playing my experience with him in my head. His breath and him, he did not smell at all. Because, see, the theory of Bigfoot is that he has an odor. That's how people detect that he's around. Okay? But according to him, he did not have a smell. But at the same time, it was kind of surprising for him. So he just kept thinking about what had happened. I didn't know how long it was. It seemed short. I finally said to him that he was going to go to bed. So I replayed this in my head when I woke up in the morning. And the big thing is that he didn't smell at all. I thought I was dreaming. And I thought, no, I had dream visions before, but this was real. Thank you, everyone, for going to Bear Butte and listening to my good friend Nancy read my experiences to you. Years have passed as I'm writing my experience to you. He wanted to see me again in the body I am in now. I also think he wanted to see what reincarnation has done to me and if I changed in any way. From a long time ago, I think we have missed seeing each other and being in each other's presence. That's pretty interesting. You know, if you're out in the woods, they do say that there's a Bigfoot in some of the places that you go to. In fact, people go there so they can try to see Bigfoot. But the story, the legend of Bigfoot is that he's a very shy creature and a very helpful creature. But the movies that they make about Bigfoot are not like that. They show that he's a mean creature and he will hurt you. But the true story that the Lakota Indians talk about is how gentle this big giant, whatever you want to call him, people have different names for him. They call him a Yeti, they call him Bigfoot. But whatever you want to call him, it doesn't matter. He is who he is. They have been here for thousands of years. And the problem is a lot of people hunt them down. And when they do, they kill them, which makes no sense. Because to me, if they've been here for that long, it's for a reason. And the reason I would think they were here to begin with was to help this planet and to help people on this planet understand more things about their life and try to help them through it. So his experience with Bigfoot was quite interesting because you would think, oh, it's just a made-up story. But the stories that I just read, none of them are made up. In fact, it's people that are kind enough to send me an experience so I can read it. And that's the same thing I ask anybody who's listening to this video. Please send me your experience or story, and we'll put it out there on the video so other people can see it, because other people probably have experienced a lot of the same things that you have. So you're really not alone. You may feel like you're alone, but you're really not alone. So don't be afraid to send something. I'm really not going to make you sound weird or strange or crazy or make you look bad or say, oh, I don't believe your story. That's not the way this channel here works. This is to help everybody get out what they're holding inside so that they can go on with their life after they've talked about their experience. Many people have experienced many different things. A lot has to do with guardian angels. A lot has to do with spirit guides. Some have to even do with ghosts. So any story that you have experienced would probably be kind of cool. People like to hear other people's stories. Again, so they know that they're not alone, because people are afraid to talk about it. But here, there's no reason to be afraid to talk about it. So I would really, really like you to send me your experiences and your stories so I can read them and let other people know that they're truly not alone with what they've gone through. I met a couple of people, more than a couple, but I met a couple of people, and they had had a really strange experience. They actually lived in a trailer court, and trailer courts were notorious for having not such good things happen there. But this couple, they were very spiritual, and they knew that there is a creator out there. They also told me that a lot of times they would feel creator helping them through things. Because usually when people live in a trailer court, they don't have a lot of money. Some do, but not very often. And they said they were kind of struggling, trying to get things done. And they both got down on their knees by their bed one night and started talking to Creator, asking Creator to please help them. Please show them the way, and they will follow it. And this couple were very sincere. And they're actually waiting for me to say, I don't believe your story. But that didn't happen. Because I said to them, I said, yes, there is a Creator. People call him God. But if you think about this, there have been many, quote, gods throughout the decades and years. So is it a man-made God? Or is the Creator really the source for all of it? And they explained it to me that, yes, people are told in religious churches and stuff that it's God. But in reality, it's not. It's the Creator or the source that actually helps everybody who needs it. All you have to do is ask. Because, see, they have a thing about interfering with our willpower. And if they think they're interfering with willpower, they won't butt in until you ask. Most people pray when they're very desperate. Most people pray when they really want something. Most people don't understand how to pray in gratitude, because that's what you should be doing. Praying in gratitude for all the things that you do have, not the things that you don't have. Because you'll have them. It's just in the timing. So everybody has to understand, and I'm sure I'm going to upset some people when I say that the word God is a man-made word, which it is, and I don't use God very often. And when I do my readings, I have a few cards that designate God, and so I have to say that. But I tell them, your God, because I don't know what God they're praying to, but the Creator is the one who is making everything, or the source, either one, okay? So it's real important that people understand that. Instead of praying, always asking for something, learn how to pray in gratitude. It's something that today's people somehow miss out on and don't understand. But gratitude is very, very important to get things done for yourself and to help other people, not just be an egotistical person who thinks, I want money, I want money. Most people pray for finances. Some people pray to have a loved one come in. Some people pray for whatever because they think they want them. But the problem is, what they want and what they really should have are usually two different things. Because most people don't think they have to work for things. But that's not true. A lot of people work very hard to get what they have. Some people have it taken away for various reasons. Nobody knows, but it gets taken away. That is a test of your faith in Source or Creator for you to find a way to get back. And it will work. You just have to pray in gratitude instead of wanting or need. And I understand you pray for other people who are sick and they need help. I understand that. That's a good type prayer because you're not praying asking for yourself. But if you just remember to kind of pray in gratitude, a lot of things could happen a lot quicker for you, and you would probably be a lot happier. So that's my little session for today. It's a little shorter than the rest. Next week, I'm going to do some more short, quickie readings. But in order to do that, again, I need you to send in a question or two. And when you send them in, I will print them out. I am not going to say your name or anything else because I don't do that. But I'll print them out, and then I will turn over the cards to ask the question and give you your answer. And it's nothing to be afraid of, but I do tell the truth. I don't try to blow smoke up anybody's butt trying to make them feel good. That's not who I am. But he just kind of gives you a sample of over 50 years of how I've helped people with their lives by reading tarot cards for them. I call it intuitive reading because it comes from the angels, does not come from me. Again, if you would like more information about my book and how to get it, please just send me your name, address, phone number, and I will explain it all to you. But what I'd really like for you all to do is send me some of your experiences or stories, even stories that you may have heard from somebody else. I'm willing to read them. I'm willing to listen to them. So again, I ask for you to help me out by sending me the stories and the experiences. And for next week, I need questions coming in. One question, 2 questions, whatever, so that I can do the quickie readings like I did a few weeks ago. In fact, probably every 2 weeks or so, I will be doing the quickie readings because people seem to like that more than anything else, and that's okay. So for today, that's all I have to say, and I hope that you have enjoyed the program, and this will be up later today after 5 p.m. Pacific time, and I hope to hear from you. Until then, take care, do what you got to do for you, but not ego-wise, and see what happens. And remember, pray in gratitude. Have a great week. Bye now.